This is part 3 of a short series on multiplication. Up until now, we've talked about using 10 and 100 as our reference numbers to help make our calculations easier. So today we're going to look at numbers that are a little bit further away from 10 or 100 and using 20 and 50 as our new reference numbers. Remember, really you can use any number as a reference, but you're trying to use numbers that are easy to calculate with. So for example, 20, we can actually just look at it as 2 times 10. And 50, we can think of timesing by 100 and then halving afterwards. So let's start with our first example. Let's have 23 times 24. So as before, we write our reference number to the side and circle it. And then we write how far it is away from the reference number. So here we have 3 above, so I'm going to circle plus 3 above and then plus 4 above the 24. And now we're going to add diagonally, so whether we do 3 plus 24 or 23 plus 4, we get 27. We multiply by our reference number 20. Now let's break up 20 into times 2, then times 10. And then we need to add those two circled numbers multiplied together, so we will be adding 3 times 4, which is 12. So 27 times 2 will be 54, times 10 is 540, add 12, 552. And remember that the most important thing here is the mental dialogue. So really in your mind, once you've got your plus 3 and plus 4, you're going 27, double it, 54, times the reference number 540, adding 3 times 4, 552. So in the meantime, we're writing them out, but remember that this is all a mental process that you're trying to speed up. Let's try another one. Let's do 23 times 31. So again, write the reference number 20. This time we'll have plus 3 and plus 11. So as before, whether we add 3 plus 31 or 23 plus 11, we will get 34. Again, doubling it, and then times 10, adding 3 times 11, which is 33. So double 34, we get 68 times 10, 680 plus 33. So our final answer should be 713. So notice that the reference technique is really good for numbers that are close together. So far we haven't discussed what we should do if our two numbers are very far away from each other. So if we had something like 23 times 82. So at the moment, the strategy works for numbers that are close together, and this time we're using 20 as our reference. This still applies if our number is below our reference number. So for example, if we were doing 19 times 16, now you could even use 10 as your reference, but just for the sake of today, we'll use 20. Now, because each of these numbers is below 20, I'm going to write my circled numbers below the numbers. So minus 1, minus 4. All right, so now we subtract diagonally. So we get 15. Again, we're going to double, then times 10, add the two numbers multiplied, which gives us 4. So double 15 is 30, times 10, 300, plus 4 is 304. And of course, if we have a number above and below the reference number, we can use the strategy we talked about in part 2. Now let's look at an example where we have to use 50. So multiplying by 50, we can think of as multiplying by 100, which is easy, and then just halving the result. So let's say we had 46 times 48, using 50 as our reference number. So like before, I should be doing this below. So we have minus 4 and minus 2. So let's subtract diagonally and we get 44. And we're going to multiply by 100, halve that. And then we're going to add 2 times 4, which is 8. So we have 4,400, and we're going to halve that, So right now I'm writing out the full calculation, but remember this is more of a verbal process rather than a full written out solution. So 2,200 would be half of that, plus 8 is 2,208. Okay, let's write that a little bit more quickly. Supposing we had 53 times 57. 50 as our reference number. This time we're above, so I'm going to have a plus 3 and plus 7. Adding diagonally, that would give me 60 times 100. I'm going to halve that and add the two numbers multiplied, which is 21. So we have 60 times 100, 6,000, halve it, 3,000, plus 21 is 3,021. All right, so you can even extend this to if we had 3-digit numbers and numbers that are close to 200 or even 500. For example, if we had something like 216 times 216, we can use 200 as our reference. This time we would be 16 above both of these. All right, so let's add it diagonally. So we would have 216 plus 16, so 232, multiplied. Again, we're going to double it, and then we're going to multiply by 100, and then add in 16 times 16. So we have 464, add 2 zeros. Now 16 times 16, again, you can employ 10 as a reference number. So this is like it's an integrated reference amongst a larger reference number. So here we would use 10 as a reference, and hopefully the idea of using this is becoming more familiar and you won't have to actually write it out fully. So you would have a plus 6 plus 6. All right, so whichever way you add, you're going to get 22 times 10. So you'll have 220 plus 6 times 6, 36, 256. So it's just a matter of adding those two together at the end. So you would have 466 and then 56. And likewise, you can extend 50 to 500 and do the same thing. It'll just be a little bit more to keep track of, but I think that's pretty impressive that you can do, relatively difficult 3-digit numbers in multiplication, and you can do that all mentally. All right, so that's part 3 done. I'll see you in the next part soon.